Hello, friends. So, this week, as you may have seen already, we're working on a dialogue scene. If you haven't read the assignment sheet already, I would go take a browse at that. So, you'll be following along this script over here and download this footage. There is also a shot list in the script, and you're going to be following along that. Actually, just gonna download this guy, and then we can pull it open and have a little chat. So here's your shot list, and here it says use part 1 files. So there's these part 1 files, and then at this line it shifts to part 2 files. You have some editing instructions on the left, so be sure to follow those, and you have some dialogue on the right. Be sure you follow along this while you're editing and cut out any dialogue that is not in the script. As your director for this project, I've decided that I didn't like the actor's improv of adding some lines, and I would like it to be the original script, so you as an editor have to do that. So let's take a look at this guy. We have our little establishing shot, our part 1 clips, and then we have our part 2 and take 1 and 2 clips. So I'd like to point a few things out with this footage. So here we have part 2. I'm going to talk mostly about those because part 1 is a little more intuitive. So part 2, you see there's take 1 and take 2 for each camera angle. If you pick take 1, you have to use both shots. They were done at the exact same point in time, so it was a 2-camera shoot, and these were rolling at the exact same time. Then there was take 2, and these cameras were rolling at the exact same time. So be sure whichever ones you pick and decide is the best take, that you're using the same take for both the advisor and the student. So I'm gonna pick take 2 over here to use as a demonstration. So let's listen through this.
I understand I've been having trouble settling.
You and I both know this isn't a matter of settling in. You've displayed a significant lack of effort since you started here.
Okay, now let's take a look at the student's view of take number 2.
Action when you're ready. I understand I've been having trouble settling in, No worries.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I understand I've been having trouble settling,
You and I both know this isn't a matter of settling in.
So you notice something there. So this camera over here, the student view camera, there was a mistake at the beginning. And this advisor view camera, that cameraman decided to stop recording and restart, whereas the cameraman who was running the student view just decided to keep on rolling. They are from the same time, so you just have to be aware of that. You may have also noticed that the audio was pretty garbage on the student. You're not using that audio, but you will use it to help sync the two together. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to do something I rarely do, but since we're using most of this clip, I'm going to drag the entire thing onto my timeline over here to create a sequence. And then since I know there was a little mistake, I am going to actually cut out the beginning of this guy. So let's get past the mistake.
No worries. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so now I'm going to make an endpoint because I want to get it as similar to the other take as possible, or the other angle, sorry, not take, and put those on my timeline. You see it is on top of the other one, not literally overriding it. Don't put it directly on top. You want to make sure it's on a separate layer. So the audio's on a separate layer and the video's on a separate layer there. We have seen this here is a sequence. So what I'll typically do is I will rename this guy to my sequence 1 or something like that, just so I don't mistake it for a shot. It also has a different icon than the others, but it lists as a shot here, and it just can be confusing if you see it as an extra shot, so be sure to rename it. Now I'm going to expand this out so I can see the little thumbnails and who's talking here, and I'm definitely going to expand out my audio. Now, you are going to sync these up. So as I said before, this was recorded at the exact same point in time. 2 different cameras recording the same thing. So I just have to move it one around to match the other, and then I can cut back and forth between my cameras and it'll be at the same point in time. Just by dumping it on my timeline, I actually did a pretty good job here. I can tell that already is because looking at my waveforms, see they have a similar shape? They're almost exactly lined up. But now I'm going to click, and I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to click my play bar there and drag inwards to zoom in. I can see that the start of my peaks are a little bit off. So the bottom one over here, which is the student view, is a couple frames behind that. So let's take a listen to what that sounds like.
No telling what benefit I could get from the right kind of encouragement.
See, there's an echo there, so that means it is not synced up. And we saw from the waveforms it's not synced up. Also, when we're going to move to her dialogue,
No.
you'll see that it won't match her dialogue. Well, you can't see because it's tiny, but I'll make that point in a second. So anyway, we've got our 2 factors here, both the echo and the waveform, that are telling us that it's not synced up. Also, if we looked at the visual, you'll see that their lips are not moving at the right time as the audio. So that is our 3rd key. You need to use your eyes, the waveforms, and your ears to figure this out. So I'm going to zoom back in again. Okay, to a nice peak. Let's find a nice steep one somewhere. So this one kind of works. So I'm going to zoom in a little less. There we go. So it looks like these 2 over here are supposed to be lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my play bar right at the very start of the first peak. And then I'm going to use my right arrow key, which is going to go frame by frame, and count how many frames off it is. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 frames, 8 taps with the right arrow key to get to the start of the waveform, so I know that the bottom one is 8 frames behind. That means I have to move this track 8 frames to the right. Wait, did I get that right? Nope. Other way around. I need to move the top one 8 frames to the right to be in line with that. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my play bar right to the beginning of this timeline, and then I'm going to count to 8 with those arrow keys again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I've moved 8 frames over, and that's just my reference point. I know that this guy is 8 frames ahead, so now I'm going to click and drag, and that's going to magnet to my play bar. Now, look at that. Those waveforms are nice and in sync. How nice. If yours is not magneting to your little play bar, over there it's because your magnet is off. Make sure your magnet is on. Your little snapping tool. So now, let's take a listen.
I understand I've been having trouble silently.
You and I both know this isn't a matter of settling.
Look at that. No echo. So I'm using my ears and looking at the waveforms. It is synced up. Now, you are only using one audio track. You may have noticed that the one was better than the other. So this, the boom mic, so the microphone that was being held in between the 2 people, was wired in to the camera that was on the advisor. I can tell because it sounds better. This was just the inbuilt microphone in the camera. This is an actual boom microphone, the one that's intended to use. But they still recorded audio and gave it to you to help with this syncing process. Now I've sunk it up. I am going to delete my useless audio. Well, not useless, just for syncing audio. So I'm going to lock my video because I don't want to delete that. And I'm going to delete this audio track. And then I'm going to unlock it, and voila, I just have 1 audio track and 2 video. I'm just going to get these to the same length. I'm going to ripple delete, and ta-da! So Now you have to be very careful to not move it left and right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do our third check. So there was no echo when we deleted it. The waveforms were synced up. Now we're going to make sure that people's lips are matching what we're hearing. You want their lips to be moving at the same time as what you're hearing. Otherwise, it's going to be trippy for your audience. Cool. So let's take a look. And I'm just going to uncover and cover the top layer, because obviously we can see the top layer. We can see him.
And I've been having trouble settling.
You and I both.
And now I'm going to uncover it.
No, this isn't a matter of settling in. You've displayed a significant lack of effort since you started here. This behavior is only bound to get worse.
And I can see her lips are moving perfectly in sync with what I'm hearing. Yay! So now you have to be very careful not to move one of these tracks forward or backward, because it's going to move everything out of sync. That is how you sync up audio in Premiere. Again, this is very important to do if you have a multi-camera shoot. So any multi-camera shoot where there is more than one camera going, you need to sync them up so that you can cut back and forth and there'll be no continuity errors. It'll be at the same time. And you want to pick the audio and only use the audio that is good quality. Sometimes that will be a separate audio track recorded just off of the microphone, but in this case it was linked into the camera. Now, in the next video, I will show you how to cut back and forth in dialogue scenes and how I recommend doing that.